And good afternoon, race fans. We'd like to welcome you back here to the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida, as we are getting set for the dual race number 1 of the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series, as we will set the inside row for Sunday's Daytona 500. I'm Mike Burton here in the broadcast booth. Happy to have you along with us as we get set for a 25-lap showdown here at Daytona in the Bluegreen Vacations Duels from Daytona. Ryan Blaney, the Daytona 500 pole center, will start on the pole alongside the number 14 of Clint Bowyer. Ryan Newman, Michael McDowell, and Eric Almirola make up your top 5 on the starting grid. This race will feature 23 drivers in this race, as well as another 23 drivers in dual race number 2 that will come up later on here in the night. Now, before we go down to 4 opening ceremonies, we'd like to give you some important storylines coming into this race. First off, Ryan Blaney and Brad Keselowski, they know they will start on the front row for the Daytona 500 as long as they finish the race. If they get a DNF in this race, they will have to go to the rear of the field for Sunday's Daytona 500. With that going on for Ryan Blaney and Brad Keselowski, everyone else, or mostly everybody else, is just trying to go for a win and see if they can start at least as high as 3rd in the Great American Race. But out of our 46 drivers here, remember, 42 will make the show, but 36 of them are locked in. 10 drivers came here trying to race their way into the Daytona 500. Now, we already know that Justin Haley and Brandon Jones are in the Daytona 500, at least by qualifying speed. There's the 59 of Brandon Jones. We know he will race on Sunday. There is another 9 or 8 drivers who do not know, their goal, or they do not know what will happen, whether they will make the show or not. Now, the top 2 we have in this race, we have 5 of our open teams that are trying to race their way in. Brandon Jones, Brendan Gaughan, Reed Sorensen, Tommy Joe Martins, and Timmy Hill. Of those 5 drivers, the highest 2 finishers will 100% race their way into the Daytona 500. Now, we already know Brandon Jones is in. Brendan Gaughan and Reed Sorensen can fall back on their qualifying speed depending who races their way in. But for Tommy Joe Martins and Timmy Hill, his teammate, their only shot to race on Sunday is be one of the highest 2 finishers in this dual race that is about to start here right now. That is the storylines coming in here in the dual race number 1. We'll talk about the other drivers who are trying to race their way in dual 2 later on in the evening. But for Blaney and Clint Bowyer, they will lead the field down to green as we send it down trackside for our opening ceremonies.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks.
Drivers, start your engines!
Cars now rolling off pit lane onto the track. Down below, you will see our starting grid appear, roll across your screen, allowing you to see where your favorite drivers are going to start here this evening in dual race number 1. And you look at the top 5, what do you see? You see Fords. What do you see in the top 9? 8 Fords. One of the biggest themes of Speed Weeks thus far has been the speed by the Ford Mustangs. Penske, Stewart Haas, Roush Fenway, even Front Row Motorsports showing a lot of speed, a lot of promise. Certainly going to see they certainly hope that at least one of their Mustangs will be in victory lane tonight and certainly Sunday for the Daytona 500. In this field, you have Matty Benedetto starting 8th in that Wood Brothers number 21. John Hunter Nemechek, a Rookie of the Year contender. Back here, there's Brandon Jones. We know he will race. But what about Brendan Gaughan in that 62? Reed Sorensen in that 27, along with Tommy Joe Martins and Timmy Hill. Tommy Joe Martins has never even competed in a Cup Series race. So not only is he trying to make his 500 debut, he's trying to make his Cup Series debut for Carl Long's MBM Motorsports team. It is a 25-lap race here at Daytona in Duel Race number 1. And remember, any driver who DNFs in this race will go to a backup car and will have to start at the rear of the field on Sunday. As they come down to the green flag, and we are underway here in the Blue-Green Vacations Duels from Daytona, Duel Race number 1. And they did not take no time for these guys to fan out 3 wide. Down the back straightaway, Ryan Blaney and Ryan Newman, first and second. It is the Ryan and Ryan show here at the front. And Newman swings it to the bottom of the track, trying to get that lead away to lead lap number 1 here in Duel Race number 1. And you see the 00, the yellow and black car at the top of your screen. That was Quinn House scraping the wall off turn number 4. He's one of our Rookie of the Year candidates for 2020. As Ryan Newman will lead lap number 1, but he has his new Roush Fenway 4 teammate Chris Buescher on the inside trying to get that lead away. And not only Buescher, he brought Eric Almirola along with him in that 10 car. Buescher moves up to pick up his teammate Newman. Almirola moves up to pick up his 4 teammate Matty Benedetto. And that leaves who? Rookie John Hunter Nemechek on the inside. And John Hunter, he wants that lead too, as he's going to get a little bit of a contact from the 18 of Kyle Busch, the winner from the class last Saturday night. But at the start, it was Eric Almirola in front of the field. Now, we talked about at the top of the show that these drivers are, racing to start at least as high as 3rd in the Daytona 500. And also these guys are racing to race their way in, try to get into the Daytona 500 as well. But one more thing to point out is these dual races, points are on the line. Not playoff points, but stage points. If you win this race, you get 10 additional points to the championship point standings. That could be the difference of making the playoffs or missing them. Eric Almirola knows that, and he's going to race hard to try to keep that lead from Matty Benedetto. As here comes the 19, that's Martin Truex. On the inside, he has a new crew chief in 2020 with James Small atop of the pit box. Crew chief Cole Pearn step away from NASCAR at the end of 2019 in a kind of a shocking retirement. But James Small now the crew chief of that number 19, and so far it's going pretty good. Martin Truex trying to get that lead away in that 19. But he has the 47, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one of the most aggressive super speedway racers. And he's trying to get that lead away now. He's on the inside, leading that train of John Hunter Nemechek and Kyle Busch in the 18. Now this was a 23-car field, and you see a lot of drivers have already lost the pack. There's the 15 of Brendan Poole. Tommy Joe Martins is back here. Timmy Hill, Quinn Houff. We talked to some of the drivers pre-race. Some of these guys like, Quinn Houff, Brendan Poole. These drivers, these are smaller teams. These teams, they have backup cars, but they're not as good. And we talked to some of the drivers in this race, as well as Duel Race number 2. Their goal is just to really survive, not getting any crashes. That way they can save their best equipment for the Daytona 500. And that is what we're seeing out of guys like Brendan Poole and Quinn Houff. Up front, though, it is still Martin Truex Jr. leading here at Daytona in the 19. You see these three cars back here, this little trio, Bubba Wallace, Ty Dillon, and Corey LaJoie, they may want to get single file before they lose touch to the lead pack. But I think it may be a little bit too late as we're 4 wide up here. That's Reed Sorensen in the middle. That is not where you want to be if you're Reed Sorensen and trying to race your way into the Daytona 500. Brandon Jones is also up here in that 59 car, but Brandon Jones is locked in. If he wrecks, they have a backup car. Reed Sorensen, if he wrecks, he may go home. He may not be able to rely on his qualifying speed. And off the track goes the 59 of Brandon Jones. And they're 4 wide again. That's Clint Bowyer in that 14. Ryan Newman's back here in that 6. But they keep it straight. They keep it clean. That may have been what Ty Dillon needed to regain touch with the lead pack, as well as Corey LaJoie and Bubba Wallace. Nonetheless, this is at least a 17-car pack, being led by the Joe Gibbs Toyotas of Martin Truex and Kyle Busch. Martin Truex hanging tough on the outside of his teammate Kyle Busch, but that's Eric Almirola on the bottom, and he has Chris Buescher as his pusher. Going to be 3 wide for the lead here in turn number 3. Truex and Stenhouse, Busch and DiBenedetto, Almirola and Buescher on the bottom as they're 4 wide again. Ryan Blaney's in the wall, rubbing doors, trading paint with John Hunter Nemechek. And look at the time they lost to the leaders. Not quite sure what happened there between the 12 and the 38. I can't imagine Ryan Blaney being too happy, too pleased with the rookie in that 38 car. John Hunter Nemechek, who drove for GMS Racing in the Xfinity Series 1 year ago, and then ended up replacing Matt Tifft in the final couple of races in 2019 as Matt Tifft had medical issues. Had a pretty good run in that short amount of races he had in that 36 car last year, and it propelled him to a full-time gig at Front Row Motorsports. While up front, that whole mess with Blaney and Nemechek allowed the front 8 cars to get away. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Stenhouse and DiBenedetto, Buescher, Almirola, McDowell, and Bowyer. Those are the top 8 cars. Now with 16 laps to go, remember, 2 drivers will race their way into the show via this race. Right now, Reed Sorensen is having an awesome run, and Jay Robinson's Premium Motorsports Chevrolet, even though he's been put 3 wide, he's been put 4 wide, he is hanging in there up here inside the top 10, as well as the 59 of Brandon Jones. Now, same can't be said for Timmy Hill, Brendan Gaughan, and Tommy Joe Martins, who's in the wall, along with Brendan Paul. I've been watching a lot of these guys. They're getting in the wall off turn number 4. That's going to be very important to see how much of that do we see. Oh, and there goes the 17, sideways, facing the inside wall off turn 2. But it's going to be interesting to see how much of that will we see on Sunday, and will that trigger the big one as well. You have to know these tires are starting to go away. These cars are getting harder and harder to drive. Tyler has been pretty big here at Daytona and Speed Weeks, and certainly going to be something to watch with the handling on Sunday when the track is hot and slick. It's supposed to be about 80 degrees on Sunday. Perfect weather for what is expected to be a perfect race here at Daytona. As you see, Almirola now clear the top 2 almost. Buescher and Busch fighting back on the outside. Almirola, though, has his teammate Clint Bowyer behind him in the 14. We saw the top 8 break away, but Ryan Blaney has caught these guys once again. So Ryan Blaney is still in this race to maybe win this race. If Ryan Blaney wins, he will, of course, remain starting on the pole for the Great American Race. That means if Blaney wins, whoever finishes in second, they would start third in the Daytona 500. Third place would start fifth, and so on throughout the field. One more update on the 27 of Reed Sorensen. He'll be running full-time in the Xfinity Series for Bobby Dodder's SS Greenlight Racing team, replacing Greg Galding over there. Pretty big opportunity for Reed Sorensen. Be running full-time in Xfinity, but also running a good amount of races for Jay Robinson here in the Cup Series. As we are 3 wide here at the front, Ryan Blaney on the inside of Almirola. And it is getting pretty aggressive. Some of these tandems here at the front, you had to think, at what point do you just say, this is enough, and just maybe try to break out the pack? Because remember, these drivers, these teams have been working on these cars for the biggest race of the year for the last 6 months. So much preparation and so many hours of hard work have been put into these cars. Do you really want to risk taking them out in a dual race? Chris Buescher having a strong run here in that 17 car for Roush Fenway Racing. Clint Boyer on the outside in the 14, and a little bit of contact. Around goes the 17. Comes back up the track. He saves it. Once again, what a save by the 17 of Chris Buescher. Driving the wheels off that Fastenal Ford Mustang. Got some contact off turn number 2. But once again, he kept his foot in the gas, and he kept it straight, and he kept it clean and green here at Daytona. As we are coming to 10 laps to go, Boyer scraping the wall. Your race leader got in the wall off turn number 4. Slowed his progress down a little bit, and here comes the 19 on the inside. Martin Truex takes the lead away, and Boyer still in the wall. You have to think these tires are just starting to go away on these cars. The handling is getting tough. These cars are sliding around, getting tight, getting loose at different areas of the racetrack, and these guys, they broke away to about 8 cars, about an 8-car pack, and now all of a sudden, we're back to a 14-car pack. From race leader Martin Truex all the way back here to Ty Dillon. We were talking about Tommy Joe Martins, who was trying to race his way in, and more contact with Almirola and Blaney. But we're talking about Martins, who's trying to make his Cup Series debut. Brandon Jones came here having to race his way in to make his 500 debut, but also his Cup Series debut. But trying to race his way in so he does not have to start 41st on Sunday. Right now he is in 12th place. Austin Dillon has lost touch with the lead pack. He's in 15th. Corey LaJoy, Bubba Wallace 17th and 18th. Then you have Brendan Gaughan, Timmy Hill, J.J. Yaley, and Quinn Houff. Then you have Brendan Poole and Tommy Joe Martins. And right now, Tommy Joe and Timmy Hill, they are in trouble. Brendan Gaughan back here as well. He does have a chance to fall back on his qualifying speed. If Brandon Jones races his way in, that would lock Daniel Suarez into the Daytona 500. So if Jones races his way in, he will lock Suarez in, meaning if Justin Haley or Suarez races their way in on dual race number 2, then that will lock Brendan Gaughan into the Daytona 500, which would be his final Daytona 500 start for the 62. As we are coming down, 7 laps to go. Ryan Blaney, Clint Boyer. How about the 21? Matty Benedetto up here in the 21. He's trying to get the lead away. And he's going to get turned by the 18 once again. That's not the first time. That's not the second time we've seen Kyle Busch get in the back of another car off turn number 2 and nearly wreck him. But Di Benedetto hangs on and he stays in front beside his Ford teammate Ryan Blaney. No, we talked about the thing with the speed weeks being the dominance by Ford. And we were not kidding. They are all up here. We have in the top, I believe this is top 14. There is probably more than 8 Fords up here in this lead pack. With the Benedetto, Boyer, Blaney, Busher, Almirola, Newman, Nemechek. See McDowell back here in the 34. Looking through the field, Timmy Hill getting pushed by Quinn Houff, and there goes the 46 in the outside wall. Timmy Hill in the wall with the 54 of J.J. Yaley. The caution will come out with 5 laps to go at Daytona. Clint Boyer will be your leader at the line. Just as we put the camera on Timmy Hill, he was sent into the outside wall by the 54 of J.J. Yaley. And for one of the guys who had to race his way in, you see the damage on the right side of that Toyota. Timmy Hill will not race in the Daytona 500 on Sunday. The way it looks from the damage, he took a pretty hard impact in the outside wall head on, as well as you see the right side damage on that 46. Had to bleed some suspension failure or suspension damage on that 46. He hard impact for the 46 of Timmy Hill, as well as the 54 of J.J. Yaley, and there goes the 46 behind the wall. That will complete one part of the puzzle of who makes the show and who goes home. Timmy Hill will not race in the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Now, we were focusing on J.J. Yaley being the one who turned the 46 head on the outside wall, but there may be more to that story than you might believe. And it may involve that 62 of Brendan Gaughan. Here's Gaughan pushing Yaley on the outside. And as you see, Gaughan turns Yaley down into Timmy Hill. And head-on collision on the outside wall for the 46 of Timmy Hill. And J.J. Yaley got a pretty good amount of damage on the hood of that 54. But as long as Yaley can finish the race, he will not go to the rear of the field. Even though he does have some pretty good damage on the front end of that Pods Ford for Rick Ware Racing. There's a chromed up Mustang of J.J. Yaley. Let's go back and look at it one more time. Tim Hill will be competing in the Truck Series race on Friday night for his own team, Hill Motorsports. I believe he'll also be competing in the Xfinity race for Carl Long's team as well. But he will not race in the 500 because of this right here. See, Brendan Gaughan's trying to help Yaley, but right there, he's just going to get into the left rear corner panel of that 54. And had Timmy Hill not been there, Yaley could have saved it. Because we saw Kyle Busch do that to Chris Buescher a couple of times in this race, but there was nobody on the inside of Chris Buescher, which allowed him to save it. But Timmy Hill and J.J. Yaley, not so fortunate here. And Quinn Houff, even though he was in this foursome back here, he had really nothing to do with it except just run behind the 46, and he was able to get away, as does Brendan Gaughan. Now, with the amount of cleanup, and we just got word that there was some oil left on the track from Timmy Hill. Right now, we are with 4 laps to go in this race. So we are going to come back, and we are being told that it will not be a green-white checker finish, but it will be a 2-lap dash to decide who wins Duel race number 1. We are back live, getting set for the restart with Clint Boyer and Matt Di Benedetto on the front row. Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney on row 2, with Eric Almirola and Martin Truex Jr. on row 3. Right now, your 2 transfer cars, Brandon Jones and Reed Sorensen. Brendan Gaughan, Tommy John Martins, they have 2 laps to try to get themselves into one of the transfer spots. But up front, it is Clint Bowyer bringing us down to the green flag, and we are back underway from Daytona. Bowyer goes up to pick up the 21 of Matthew Benedin, and that leaves the 17 on the inside, Chris Buescher, and here comes the 12, Ryan Blaney, 3 wide for the lead as they come off turn number 2. Ryan Blaney has help from Eric Almirola. Can he take that lead away? Buescher falling back in the middle in that 17. And now Almirola goes to the inside of Blaney to make it 3 wide, but not a lot of help down there on the inside. Now Kyle Busch moves down to the inside lane. Bowyer now falling back into 14. It's Almirola, Ryan Blaney, side by side for the lead as they take the white flag. Brandon Jones, Reed Sorensen still in those 2 transfer positions. But up front, it's Blaney and Almirola, and here comes the 47. Where did Ricky Stenhouse Jr. come from? Stenhouse is getting pushed by the 18 of Kyle Busch, but that 12 is getting a great push from Clint Bowyer. They race down into turn number 3. They are 3 wide for the lead. Stenhouse, Almirola, and Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch, will he make it 4 wide on the 18? Contact with the 47. They come off turn number 4, down to the checker flag. At the stripe, it's going to be Ryan Blaney, winning dual race number 1 at a fantastic 3 wide photo finish at the line with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Eric Almirola. And Brandon Jones with his, if I can find him, his 13th place finish. Brandon Jones will race his way into the Daytona 500. And with his 16th place finish, Reed Sorensen will also make the Daytona 500 by racing his way in, meaning Brendan Gaughan will have to wait in the 62. But look how close this was between Brendan Gaughan and Reed Sorensen. Sorensen kind of lost touch with the lead pack, and here comes Gaughan. He almost got Sorensen. Maybe one more turn. I mean, look how close Brendan Gaughan got to the 27. That's the closest he's been to that car this entire race, and he almost got him right there at the line. But that will also mean that Tommy Joe Martins will join his teammate Timmy Hill as 2 of the 4 drivers who will not race in Sunday's Daytona 500. So Jones and Sorensen are in, Martins and Hill are out, and because Brandon Jones will not have to use his qualifying speed, that means Daniel Suarez for Gaunt Brothers Racing has also qualified for the Daytona 500. He will also race on Sunday. And that means Ryan Blaney will start on the pole. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who finished in 2nd, Stenhouse will start 3rd on Sunday. As we skip forward a little bit here, as they're coming down pit lane, let's take a look at the results. Ryan Blaney, great pass for the number 12. Let's go back as the race results are on the screen right now. We're going to go back and look at the finish of this race between Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse, and Eric Almirola. And also, Ryan Blaney will have 10 extra points to his season with his win here in dual race number 1. And look at this 3 wide finish at the line. Pretty insane finish right there. Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse, and Eric Almirola. But that will be all for dual race number 1. But that is not all the action here at Daytona, because coming up next we have the Bluegreen Vacations dual race number 2 here from Daytona. That will set the outside row for the Daytona 500, and we will 100% know who will race in the Great American Race for the Daytona 500. Congrats to Ryan Blaney on the win, and Brandon Jones and Reed Sorensen as they race their way into the Daytona 500. We'll see you very soon later on tonight for dual race number 2.